at you. Good Monday, everybody. Welcome to BTL Bass Talk Live, where we're going to talk bass fishing and anything else that we want to talk about. Matthew, how you doing? Good Monday, our first show of a jam-packed week this week, my friend.
And I'm excited because I had a gift waiting for me in the studio when I walked in. Now, I got to admit, we'll get this right out of the top. I am slowly starting to think that they're trying to turn us into SEC fans. Our fan base is, you get the Alabama wrap package with the Alabama hat, and now I get a very nice, like, kind of a small grayish tackle box. What is that? What is that sticker?
What's a dry box?
A dry box. What's that sticker right there on the front, though?
That would be a pig suey.
That would be an Arkansas Razorback. But inside, I open it up, and remember the one-on-one lives that we did out there at Grand Lake.
Challenge.
One of them was Wes Mabry, firefighter.
Yes,
there in Arkansas. Sends me a nice letter. Said he's been watching my AFCO Bass Boot Camp videos, and the one that I get a flat tire in. I mean, firefighters are pretty handy. They can, they know how to get things done there. And I got a flat tire in that. He sent me a deluxe tire plug kit to where I could plug the tire. He said, "Now I don't know how handy you are, but kind of gave me some instructions on how to do it, and then also some tie downs. So that will go directly into the truck." And now as I'm towing, I can, just in case there is not a Firestone Tire and Auto within a mile of where I get my flat tire. So thank you very much. That made my Monday right off the bat there. So
taking care of you.
Very nice letter. And you know what? Just Wes, because I'm so thankful, I will leave the Arkansas Razorback on this side of the dry box, but I might have to put an OU sticker on the other side.
Yeah, probably a good move there. All right, great show this week. Shows, actually. We're going to kick things off today with the G-Man Gerald Swindle live via Skype. And then tomorrow we have Steve Kennedy. On Wednesday, Brandon Polinick. And then wrapping up the week on Thursday, Bernie Schultz. So in the 15-year history of doing this show, and I want to give everybody kind of a lesson on this. Obviously, you have not been involved with this show for 15 years. It actually started out many years ago with myself and a guy by the name of Gary Judici that we had this show. At the time, it was XM Radio. When Sirius merged with XM, then we had the situation of we had to make a decision because Sirius wanted to make some changes to the show. They wanted to do some things, and that's when Gary and I made the decision that we were going to go live on the web.
That was when you actually had a producer, though. Yeah. You actually had someone sitting there producing the show.
Yeah, his name was Mike Holt, who is living in Jamaica now, I think. Somewhere in the
so I didn't mean to derail you. Continue.
Yeah, so as the show progressed, we had a guy by the name of Drew Smith who was involved with the show. Brent Conway was involved with the show for a very short period of time. Kenyon Hill was involved with the show. But in the entire history of this show, I cannot recall a week that we are having this week. 4 huge names in the game, back to back to back to back. And with so much getting ready to happen, history this week for us, history getting ready to happen next week, Matthew, with the launch of the first BPT at Lake Toho. And it looks like it's going to be a little chilly.
It is. There's a cold front. The anglers are down there right now practicing for the Bassmaster Eastern Open that kicks off in Florida, and the cold fronts are rolling through the area. But how long does it take those Florida bass? A week of stable weather?
Sometimes. Remember what Rojas did? There was a huge cold snap that came through, and then he ends up setting the record a week later.
So it could be lining up for an epic. I hope it is. I hope it is everything that they hope it is, and that they hit it just right after the off season that everyone has gone through. I think the best way to get things kicked off after 91 pounds wins the first FLW Tour event on Rayburn is to go down and I don't even know what a number to throw out for the BPT is, but a slugfest there, and then a slugfest in the Open, and then a slugfest in the FLW Tour, and a slugfest in the Elite Series, and it takes 80 pounds to win every single one of those tournaments, and everybody's talking about the big fish instead of who's fishing where.
Well, you have the Open this week, correct? At the Harris Chain?
Yep.
That might be, you said, did you say a slugfest?
Yeah, it could be. They have not been catching them in practice with the cold front. I got some buddies down that, like, one of them went to, like, a different lake to try to catch one.
Those Florida fish do not like cold fronts. And we're going to talk to Bernie about that. Obviously, Bernie, being from Florida, very familiar with what's taking place and what happens from a weather situation down in Florida. And Bernie can definitely shed some light on what takes place down in Florida when the cold fronts blow through. All right, a couple of things, and then we will get to Gerald here in about 5-10 minutes, take a break and come back with him live via Skype. I had mentioned on a show that we did last week, Matthew, about the astronomical rate that is being charged to advertise during the Super Bowl.
Right.
You did some fuzzy math, and it was pointed out by one of the listeners.
Wrong. but basically, what your whole point, if I recall from the show, was, heck, the NFL, the broadcast stations can charge more for Super Bowl ads because more eyes are on it. Why doesn't BASS and FLW charge more for advertising during the Bassmaster Classic and Forest Wood Cup and their subsequent shows? Right.
So what I did is I reached out for Dave Preck, the Vice President of Media Communications, longtime employee of Bass, to get an answer. I sent him an email that basically said, hey, the NFL is charging $5 million for a 30-second spot during the Super Bowl in 2019. Obviously, he wasn't going to tell me what the rates were, but I wanted to know, hey, do you guys bump up the rates for the Bassmaster Classic? Makes good business sense, right, Matthew?
Yeah, I would assume so.
All right, so I did get a response, and Dave's response was, yes, we do charge a slightly higher rate, approximately 20%, for television commercials and ads on Bassmaster.com during the Classic. It says it's not anywhere near $5 million for a 30-second spot. So about a 20% increase.
There you go.
Which is good business. Now, could they probably get more? I think they could during this year's Classic. Agreed?
Absolutely.
With the twist that's taken place with so many guys that are going to be, I don't know, you can say they're fishing their last Bassmaster Classic. Is it possible in the future they may fish it again? But in looking at a short period, probably their last Bassmaster Classic. I mean, I can't see Kevin Van Dam going back through the Opens.
I'm just saying, you know, when we asked Zona how many, you know, if he would fish 29, and this will be his 28th.
Yeah.
Zona said that Van Dam would not fish 29. So he believes that it's Van Dam's last Classic.
Yeah. Very weird.
Swindle, I mean, you're talking about Swindle's going to be 50 this year.
Yeah.
We'll ask him about that. What, you give MLF a run, now you're talking about mid-50s before you're back in the hunt for the Classic, depending on how things work out with MLF?
Yeah. I don't know, man. The vibe is going to be so weird this year. It really is. Interesting. I don't know the answer to this question. And by the way, the feedback and the questions that we're getting from the viewers, outstanding. Mm-hmm. Keep it coming. There was a listener or a viewer that had a question about the BPT, and are they fishing on a different lake on the final day?
Yes. Based on their press release, out of respect for FLW, which is FLW's first practice day, would be that Sunday.
Yeah.
They are moving.
It's only this event, though, correct?
Yes. They're moving.
As far as we know.
Yeah, they're moving the final day of MLF so that they are not on the water at the same time as FLW.
Yeah.
Since, you know, the FLW schedule was out way before MLF announced Toho. And the FLW guys will be able to watch. We got confirmation on that. We'll be able to watch what is going down in MLF as they drive to Lake Toho. So.
Anyway, the question was, it was from Whitney Johnson. I wanted to know if there was any type of contingency plan, if whatever lake that they selected for the final day, if something come up on that. Well, I would think that...
This is with anything.
Yeah, they always have a contingency plan most of the time.
I don't know if MLF does, though.
You would think that they would. I mean, the body of water that you're going to fish on, I would think that they would have a contingency plan.
I've talked to a couple guys who are fishing the MLF, and there's supposedly some new stuff getting rolled out this next week.
They do have rules now.
They know there's been a bunch of stuff rolled out. Now there's a bunch of stuff that they can't talk about that's going to get rolled out too.
Yeah.
Maybe possibly some ways that you can watch it and navigate certain things related to the MLF website that will be easier on your eyeballs. So we've gotten a lot of how do we watch the MLF BPT stuff, and I've responded to the viewer. I was like, I don't know. I mean, your guess is as good as mine. I'm assuming it's going to be free. I'm assuming it'll be on MajorLeagueFishing.com. I'm assuming it'll be a link there that says watch it live. But I mean, do we really? We don't know.
We don't know. And I actually talked to Boyd via text this weekend, and he gave me a contact name that I'm actually going to reach out for today. If I can't make contact today, I'll reach out tomorrow and see if we can get some answers on a number of things from an MLF perspective. So I'm going to say this too, Matthew. I follow this thing. I'm entrenched in it, and I'm still a little confused because the way that the selects are working now, I mean, it took place back in 2018. Are those guys, what is it?
Here's the way I understand it. And if I'm wrong, I'll probably get a call about this.
Yeah.
So right now, the MLF selects that took place on Lake Murray last summer, I believe, are running on television. New episodes. These are the guys who, at the time of the filming, the BPT was
back
not
in
around.
2018.
They were trying to accrue points to then get on the become part of MLF. Obviously, they had contracts with sponsors and stuff then, so they have those shows. They film those shows, and they're running those shows. In the grand scheme of things, these live shows that are going on with MLF Select, they don't mean anything because the MLF Select doesn't exist anymore. It's the Bass Pro Tour now.
Yeah.
But they're still going to have to run them because they have sponsor obligations.
Right.
There's also an MLF, I want to say it's a cup, maybe, or something that they filmed a couple months ago recently.
Okay.
That will also be airing this year while this year's BPT is on. That has absolutely no bearing on anything that's going on either.
I'm just confused, man.
So those two things are going on, and then the BPT is kicking off, but they're basically
does it become irrelevant once this thing kicks off next week?
Oh, in my opinion, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's still fishing on TV, and they're still going to watch it, and they still have to run it because of the sponsors that they have that signed up for it for those years, and the select anglers who paid their money to fish on the selects to try to make it. So they kind of got caught in a quandary from what I can understand, to where they have to show this stuff even though there's no relevance to it. Yeah. Now, I'm sure there's relevance to the guy who won, who gets the plaque, who can say, hey, look at this. Maybe you get some momentum from the last deal that, the last MLF tournament that's not associated with the BPT. But in the grand scheme of things, it's like a attaboy, now back to the latest and greatest.
I'm with you, man. All right, we have to mention this, and then we'll take a break and come back with Gerald Swindle. Absolute hose job last night for the New Orleans Saints. Unbelievable. You agree?
Yeah, it was pretty obvious. Pretty obvious PI.
I wonder what's going to happen to that side judge, back judge, whoever it was. It flat out blown the call. And it was funny because the NFL responded so quickly that, hey, that call definitely was the wrong call. It was so obvious. So obvious. Now, can you think of anything from a fishing perspective that was so obvious on a DQ?
No, that's what I was asking you before the show. Has there ever been what I would deem a bad call by the tournament director in a rules-related infraction?
I'm sure there is.
Someone got DQ'd who shouldn't have been, that cost him a major win, or maybe cost him making the classic.
I guarantee if we had Zell Rowland on the show, he'd know.
Yeah. But, I mean, you're talking about, what, 2 or 3 guys. You have a lot fewer options. And, one of the ones that came to mind was when Swindle got DQ'd in the Classic for running too close to Randy Howell. And the cameraman guy is the one who turned him in. You mentioned something a couple, 8-10 years ago that happened. But really, I mean, I was thinking there hasn't been anyone who, and I'm sure there has there been anyone who was winning, who was leading, who would most likely have closed the door and got DQ'd from that tournament?
I'm sure it's out there, and I'm sure we've seen it.
At a tour level event? I mean,
maybe some of the listeners can recall an event.
I was right. You know, the only one that really comes to mind for me is Brandon Polinick at the Mississippi River. I believe 4 or 5 years ago now, when they had that funky Wisconsin, Minnesota cull rule. And Polinick was leading the event, catching big smallmouth, had weighed in, everything was gravy. And then late that night, it was determined that he had culled in Minnesota, and he was DQ'd for that. And he was leading the tournament.
Yeah, but see, here's the difference. It's not a bad call.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. But I'm just thinking of something where a guy was going to win, and then rules or something came up. But as far as a bad call, Tripp's hands were kind of tied in that because it was a state law.
Yeah.
But that was the closest thing that I could think of.
I'm sure there's one out there, and I'm sure there's been events take place at local tournaments that could be deemed in the same category. But I don't know, man. It's going to be this next week. You know, we're making history this week with 4 shows, first time ever. History will be made next week at Lake Tahoe as they launch the BPT. And, man, finally get to start talking a little bit about performance.
How many tournaments do you think Gerald Swindle has fished in Florida? I mean, he's an Alabama guy. I know that's close to Florida, but it surprised me. How many do you think he's fished over his career in Florida? Opens, tour events, and Elite Series, and Top 150, all that stuff.
I don't know. You can ask him that.
34.
That many?
Yeah, that's a lot.
That is a lot.
And his stats are very impressive in it. So we'll ask him about his stats in that. But, I mean, you think about that's a lot of time in Florida waters. And his only win in his career also came in Florida.
Huh. Interesting. Very interesting. All right. Kicking off the week with the G-Man. We're going to take a break and come back right here on BTL. It's a Monday. Hopefully everybody had a great weekend. Coming back with Gerald.
Sleek new design with easy control file. The clearest images underwater with uncompromising range. Live mapping from the touchscreen. View notifications, video, even Google Maps on screen. And for the first time ever, real-time view of fish movements with live sight sonar. HDS Live. New from Lowrance.
It's about the hours spent getting everything just right. It's the attention to detail. Good just isn't good enough. It's the years spent on the water day after day. When you tie on a bait by Strike King, you're standing on the shoulders of legends.
Pros depend on hydraulic jack plates to get the best out of their boats. Do what they do. Demand Atlas performance. Atlas gets you from the bottom to the top in less than 8 seconds, even with the big 4-strokes. And when you gotta turn right around and get that heavy load back up in rough water, Atlas's innovative design and American-made components will get you there with confidence.
I'm at Depot. Just look for yourself. There's an Atlas jack plate on just about every professional's boat.
The Atlas hydraulic jack plate. You can depend on it.
Hey guys, Aaron Martins here. I'm going to be telling you about a new product by Sunline. It's Siglon PE x8. I've been using it almost extensively all year for my frogging, flipping, drop shotting, shaky heading, worming, jerk baiting. It's by far my favorite Sunline braid. I honestly, I don't say this unless I think it's true, but honestly it's the best braid in the market of any of the braids. Definitely check it out. It's a price point line, $14.95 for 165 yards, and that could last you a whole year, just one spool with using leader material. It's Siglon PE x8. It's my favorite braid, and I think if you use it, it'll be your favorite braid too. AFCO has a new foul weather rain suit called the Hydronaut. A lot of the features that I really like about it first is the speed vent hood. If it's raining out, you know, how a person gets wet is when you run down the lake and the hood comes down. With the speed vent hood, it's going to stay up. It has a camera mount in the pocket on the chest. The Hydronaut has a 2-layer, 100% waterproof nylon shell. If you're interested in a rain suit that has a lot of cool features that's going to keep you dry, you need to check out the Hydronaut from AFCO.
All right, we are back on a Monday, kicking the week off here on BTL.
Had a couple viewers and then an angler chime in with possibly some more calls that could have cost anglers. Obviously, the Hackney in the marina at Cayuga.
Yeah.
That cost him big time. And then this past year at Bass Fest, the Drew Benton deal where he kind of like stepped out on the dock when he thought he was hung and he fell in, and then he was delayed 15 minutes by trip on the last one. Remember, the other dude was like, hey man, I won't go in there off the hopper, I'll let you have it, and it was an early morning bite. But that one ended up costing him. He still won. He got the classic, all the glory and fame and prestige came along with it, but the Hackney one cost him.
No, you're right. All right, you ready for our first guest of the week? The man needs no introduction. Been in this game for a long time. I had no idea he was turning 50 this year, Matthew, as you mentioned earlier. He looks marvelous for 50. I see a few gray hairs there. Let's bring him in now. Gerald, you're there, man?
I'm good, man. I'm here. I'm all in.
You look marvelous for 50. When do you turn 50, man?
December 17th. I got a full year. I just turned 49 in December, so I mean, I'm thinking 50 may be the you know, maybe it's not going to be as rough as 40 was, but I'm getting gray. I'm thinking about just shaving bald like Marty Stone, just kicking it all the way, just smooth.
I mean, when you started this thing, did you ever think that you'd be competing against guys 30 years younger than you?
Hell, Matt, I didn't think I could make it 30 minutes into this sport. I never even dreamed I'd be here 20. You know, I was sitting there thinking about that 21 years of doing this. I was on stage with Jesse Wiggins this past weekend doing a seminar at BSU, and I'm looking around, I'm going, man, these young guys are tough. And Leanne and I were riding home from a sports show the other day, and Jeffries, you'll know this song. Garth Brooks had a song, Much Too Young to Feel This Damn Old.
Yeah.
When he said the competition's getting younger, and I'm thinking, yeah, I'm starting to understand why the guy wrote that song now, because they're getting younger and stronger and tougher and smarter. I mean, I just think as you get a little older, you learn to use the wisdom to try to defend that off.
All right, well, let's kind of jump right in. Obviously, a number of people on the instant feedback, including myself, you were somewhat active on social media when you made the decision to make the move to Major League Fishing. But why the decision, Gerald?
I think it was time, Mark. We didn't take as a family, we didn't take the decision lightly. I had nothing really disparaging to say about bass. I don't think, even if you have hard feelings, that's just not the place to say them. I wanted to make sure everybody understood, because some people say, man, you got your start at Bass. No, I got my start at FLW. I won Beaver Lake and won a lot of money right there in the 4 years. That's where I got my start. So I owe a lot to both leagues, but I felt like it was time in the industry that when a group of guys looked at each other and said, we can make a difference. Can we change the future? For like Matt sitting right there. I mean, can we change the future to if he ever wanted to fish, and Lord knows he's got the skills, but in 4 or 5 years, he said, you know what, I want to try this. Can we help pave the road where he can make more money? And that's where the decision comes. I think we had to. I don't think there was no other way around it at this point to change the game, and we did.
What's more important, this year, 2019, or 2020 when it comes to Major League Fishing?
I say 2019 is going to be a big year because a lot of eyes are on us, and not just fans. I think you take the fans out of it, you look at the media, you look at the sponsors, other organizations. MLF has a chance to put a permanent footprint in bass fishing, and I think 2019 is going to be a lot of pressure, and it's going to be monumental. I think 2020 will be the key to momentum, but I think 2019 is going to be the first step out of the block.
I don't think I've said this on air, but I'll go ahead and say it. I've said this to people off air. Gerald is one of the guys who is a conversation guider. I guess he changes the way people think. You know that. You see your social media, you interact it. There are a lot of people in the southeast of the United States who, depending on where you fished, that's where they were following. That's where their mindset went. You are very influential as far as what people think. You're their guy. If G-Man says it, that's where I'm going. You see that on social media. I've seen that on all your stuff. Man, if G-Man's in MLF, that's what I'm going to watch. If you had stayed at Bass, if G-Man's at Bass, man, I'm sticking with Bass. Do you feel an obligation with that, knowing that you're kind of guiding the course of where thousands of people are going to be generating their interest and time?
I did, Matt. Honestly, a lot of people just see the jokes and the laughs we put up, but Leanne and I labored on that, man. And I talked to, I had private conversations with fans about the same thing. There's a lot of guys to make the right decision. I've never even felt that amount of pressure from a tournament. Then I found myself sitting in my living room going, hey, man, whether you own up to it or not, a lot of people are looking at you, and the young anglers kept texting me going, hey, man, we're going to do whatever you want to do. And I'm like, man, I begged them. I said, please, please, please don't base your decision on what I do, because, if you're 30 years old, it's a lot different, man. I said, I'm fighting for something different. So Matt, to answer the question, yes, it was one of the heaviest burdens I felt. And you know what? I dang well don't want to let them down. I've made my decision, and I'm going to go 120%. The fire has been lit to be better than ever. So I'm going to go all in.
To put this into perspective, just give me a guesstimate. How many Facebook, Instagram, personal text did you get from fans that you didn't know when all this thing went down? I just want a ballpark number of people going, what are you going to do? Or you can't leave, or you got to go to MLF. Like, what is a ballpark number? Did you get 100, 1,000, 5,000?
Thousands upon thousands upon thousands, because we couldn't read them all. We couldn't read them. Messenger would get full. This would get full. Voicemail was full. A text message was full. I had went out of an area and come back in one time, and I had over 400 text messages pending. And I'm like, good God, And I was like, man, I never dreamed it would be there, man. I never dreamed that people would look up to what I was fixing to do that much. And then I think, Matt, that's when it got real. I think that's when I really started looking at, hey, make the decision on what you think's best for the sport. I really started writing the pros and cons down on a piece of paper and thought, man, I don't want to lead nobody astray. I begged people not to make their decision based on me, but it did get serious.
Gerald, was this a business decision or a fishing decision?
Can I have one more A, B, and choice? I think this was a future. This was a decision I felt like, and I don't know, be total transparent. In the seminar this weekend, a guy asked me, he said, man, was this all this MLF stuff, is it about money? I said, man, I'm going to tell you what. I said, no matter what nobody says, we all work for money. That's the same reason you guys are on air this morning. That's the same reason those guys are going to punch a clock on Monday morning. I said, everything's basically revolves around money. I said, my decision to fish bass was about money. I said, so now take the money out of it. It's about the future. It's about the future. It's about, can I have a footprint in changing fishing by reaching a new group, by reaching millennials, by reaching people who's never watched a bass tournament. I want to be a part of that, man. I want to be a part of history. I don't want to be fish 5, 10 more years and go, yeah, that's it. I'm hanging up the cleats. I'm going home. No, I want to get to the peak of my career and say, hey, man, I made a difference. So, that's what it's really about to me.
You mentioned you want to be a part of history, and I think I can kind of segue into this. How much part of history in the sport will the 2019 Bassmaster Classic be?
It's going to be, I think it's going to be one that goes down the history books. I think it'll be the most remembered outside of who won it, but I think it's going to be the most memorable classic ever, because you're going to see guys walk across that stage, including myself, that if we don't win an Open, they'll never cross it again for a long, long time. So I think the fans are going to see 25 or 30 guys that have been there every day that are gone. So I think this is going to be a classic to go down in history. And I know you guys, y'all study the sport, man. Y'all number guys. Y'all know. I think you and Jeffrey are just probably sitting there looking at that going, this is going to be the most interesting crazy story classic we've ever covered. I think you guys are going to be surprised at what an emotional toll it takes on anglers like myself or even Kevin or Ike. It's going to be an emotional strain, man, because I ain't got no hatred for bass, man. I love that stage. I play that game. I love that. I love the setup there. So walking across that stage, Matt, you played hockey. You know what it's like when you skated off the ice for the last time and you think, hey, man, this might be the last time I play this. Did it not weigh on your mind?
Oh, yeah. I stayed out on I remember the very last practice, I stayed out on the ice an hour longer than anybody else. It was just me. I remember sitting there going, I said, this is the last time I'll ever have it on. This is the last time I'll be a part of the team. This is as good as it gets for me right here. And then I went in and I took it off, and I've played twice since and pulled a groin both of those times.
Hey, I think it's going to be more than a 5 bass limit or who caught 20 pounds on day one. It's going to be an emotional roller coaster for a lot of guys.
Gerald, I'm curious, how many of the younger anglers turn to you for advice, not only in the decision that had to be made from staying at Bass and going to MLF, but just in general? Do a lot of young anglers come to you for advice, and do you give it to them?
I do, Mark. I had this conversation a couple times with Jesse. Wiggins is a guy I really think a lot of. Matt Lee. I've talked to Lucas on and off the record, which is not a rookie, not a young guy by no means. But I said, dude, one of the things that I noticed when I was coming up in the sport and I was those guys' age is nobody above you really communicated. You didn't even know where your boundaries were. You didn't know what you should ask for per month. There's no guideline on if you're starting out what is reasonable. There's even nobody to ever really tell you what you should make per day per appearance. So as a young guy, man, I just kind of fumbled around on the field, man, just looking for answers. And I don't know, as I got older, I thought, man, it's not going to hurt you to pass that down, to give somebody guidance, because I know what it would have done for me at 28, 30 years old. If somebody would have set me down and said, hey, man, this is show promoter fees. This is what you need to do. I just didn't have that, and I kind of want to give it back.
What is one thing that you really screwed up 15, 20 years ago? You're talking about this that you're giving them. What is one thing that you wish you could go back and go, I wish I could do? Now, I'm not talking about one instance, but, as a whole. If anything, I mean, heck, you are one of the best in the world, so you obviously didn't screw much up. You did a lot right.
No, I think there were some times, though, Matt, 15, 20 years ago, man, I left a lot of money on the table. Being conservative, super conservative, never seen myself, I guess the way some of the other sponsors might have looked at me. So I just didn't ask for much, man. I was super, super trusting. I don't know that I would do that exactly the same now. You know, I think I would, and I look at some of the stuff, I watched Skeet's career. You know, Skeet was pretty savvy, and Skeet got a little bit more aggressive faster than I did on things. And I think 15, 18 years ago, I left a lot of money out on the table.
Gerald, how good, and since you mentioned that, and Matt's kind of going back from the past, how good were the Citgo days in fishing?
You know, I think they were the best. They were the top of the days. But you know what I think really made those great? Because everybody talks about, man, it was y'all had more payouts, y'all had more this. Let me tell you what we had. We had more cameras and more exposure. We had a company, and they had a vision at that time to build a brand. And the anglers who performed, if you had a camera on you and you were smart and you was, you know, trying to market yourself, or you wanted the world to know your story, man, you could, you know, and that's what I see in the Citgo days. I see an opportunity for all 100 guys, man, because back then, you know, they had 10 and 12 cameras on the top 10 on the last day. It's a great way to grow your brand, and I've seen that kind of go away. So I look back at that. It wasn't just the money in the Citgo days. It was the amount of exposure an angler could get if he hustled and he performed.
You know, Matt, one of my memories early in my career of covering this game was when you and Marty were actually at the Citgo headquarters in Tulsa, and they had, I don't want to say an outdoor thing going on outside the corporate headquarters, but there was a ton of people there, and I thought, wow, this is pretty cool. Do you remember that, Gerald?
I remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
We went in and did a kind of meet the family and the people from Citgo, and
yeah,
we got involved in fishing. And, you know, I kind of missed that stuff. You know, I really missed that interaction with the companies. And Toyota's doing more of that. You know, we'll go out and meet the plan, and we did a family day. But I think those are huge benefits for the angler when you get inside of a company, to let them know fishing, let them get to know the angler, the people that are, you know, like, well, we sponsor this guy, we've never even met him. I think it's a great way to build those relationships, to continue that sponsorship on down the road, man. That's one of the things you tell the young kids. It's like, man, it's much more than just fishing. It ain't about what's in the live well.
All right, a couple more questions, and then we're going to get to the instant feedback. The instant feedback's blowing up, so folks, continue throwing out questions. I will try to get to as many as I can. I'm curious, G, from a business perspective, how has the business side of the Gerald Swindle brand been really promoted now with the move to Major League Fishing? What has been the response back from your sponsor lineup?
You know, I've been really I guess lucky and blessed with my sponsors. As I sit down and talk with them about making a change, you know, and I told them, I said, I understand you guys are reluctant, and I understand you got a lot of money invested in me, and I'm asking you to take a chance on me. You know, and Mark, they did. They trusted you enough to say, hey, we don't know, you know, we know MLF on the TV show in the past has been proven project. So we're asking a lot of people to trust us. Toyota was super great, allowed us to make our own decisions. They still support us. They still support fast. They're watching MLF. I was one of the lucky guys, man. And I don't know if it was just the way you approached it. I had guys that said, man, my sponsors are fighting me. I'm like, did you talk to them about it? Did you look at it from a different business model? Because one of the things I explained to one of my sponsors is these first 8 tournaments are going to be just like an elite, but about 50 times the coverage. So if I hustle, I'm going to exceed what I did last year for the Gerald Swindle brand and your company's brand. Now, look at it inside that. I'm going to have a couple of days off because Group A fishes and then Group B's off. So I said on those off days, Mark, if I continue to hustle and be a businessman, I'm going to be out of my boat, man. I'm going to be making me some videos. And I may be sitting down with Matt making videos. I'm going to be hunting people around there with a camera going, hey, man, let's, you know, you want to do some press stuff. I've never had that opportunity in the Elite Series. You guys have been there, so busy, and everybody's so tired, man. At the end of the day, you just fall over. I'm looking at this as a whole different business model for my sponsors, and being able to gain exposure and do little video outlets and keep people engaged in it. So I think it's, if you look at it, the glass half full, it's going to be a good year.
All right, I want to go to the instant feedback. Corey in Tennessee wants to know why you use a 3/8 ounce jig instead of a 1/2 ounce on your ball head jig.
Oh my God, a fishing question.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a miracle. We got a fishing question, Gerald.
We got a fishing question. You know, Corey, I'll tell you why I do that. It's because 3/8 seems to be the magical fall 80% of the time. There's times when I do like a 1/2 ounce. If I'm fishing 30 and 35 foot and most of the fish are on the bottom and I get all my strikes on the bottom, I'm going to throw a 1/2. but I get a lot of bites sometimes by the bait falling. So 3/8 to me seems to be the all-around bait, the weight for tying it on, slinging it around. I may get a bite on the fall, I may get a bite on the bottom. 3/8, all around better, man.
All right, Andy in Indiana wants to know, were you approached to be a commentator?
There was some talk about that, but I'm not ready to put the putters down. You know, I'm not that in a position to do that. You know, and I had it. It was brought up a few times, man. But I'm just the fire to compete is way too hot.
Let me ask Matt in North Carolina. Kind of asked that same question. He said, "Why doesn't G have his own YouTube channel?" And I just jotted it down. You know, you got Hunter Shryock, you got Wheeler, Brandon, you got Scott Martin. Ike has his own show. Scott Martin has a podcast now. Matt Airy, Brian Thrift, Luke Duncan, all these things. And now here you are with more of a fan base. Why you got someone following you around 24/7?
Man, I don't let nobody in my business. I might have to fart or something. I don't want nobody there all the time. Yeah, I don't know, Matt. I do a little stuff on YouTube, but that's just not my style. What a lot of those guys doing, and I mean, some of them do a great job of it, man. I mean, I look at B. Latt from up there in South Carolina. That's a guy that I think is just killing it on his YouTube and growing his brand, and it's just really not my style. I'm not saying I would never do a show, but the kind of shows I want to do, I don't think the industry's ready for, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm not saying that in a bad way. I envision if I ever had a show or do stuff like that, I'd want it to almost be like Ridiculous with Rob, just kind of sitting around laughing at myself and clips of anglers and talking about it. I don't know if we're ready for that yet.
Didn't you kind of explore some of those options? I remember you had like a film crew that followed you around at Oneida one year, and they were around for a couple derbies.
Yeah,
we did. We actually shot what they call a sizzle reel, and they pitched it to A&E and a few other channels back then, and that was back before Duck Dynasty and all that come out. And the reason we had to reject it is my daughter was 15 at the time, and they wanted to put a camera with her at school and all that. And as a family person, I said that's not healthy, and I would not allow it. You know, they wanted to do the show. They wanted to bring a secretary into my house because they thought Leanne and I might not have enough confrontation, so they wanted to put another lady in the house. And I'm not going to sell out who I am. I'm not going to do any of that just to be on TV. And I said, guys, if y'all don't think comedy will sell, then I don't want no part of it. And this was the quote from the lady at A&E. She said, there is no room in reality TV for comedy. And 2 years later, Duck Dynasty was one of the biggest shows out there.
Wow.
Let me ask you this, and we'll get back to instant feedback. Have you ever gotten in trouble for something you say? I've never asked you this, but I mean, you say a lot of stuff on stage. Like some of the stuff will be behind stage, and you'll be like rolling, and everyone will be laughing, and then we'll be like, "Oh, dang, he said that."
I know.
Have you ever gotten off stage and had that flush in your face? You're like, "Oh, I probably shouldn't have said that." Then the phone rings, and you're just like, "Oh no."
I've been in trouble. Yeah. I've got some of them frowny faces on my report card, and I'm learning to get, I just learned not to say as much. But I've said a few things on live when I was on live fishing that I really wish I could take back. And my wife said that I said at the bracket tournament that I was slapping babies and kissing ladies or something. I don't know. She said, "You said that," and I was like, "No, I didn't." She said, "Yeah, you did." I'm like, "All right, so I'm sorry." So it just. And honestly, that's one of the things we just talked about the YouTube deal. Here's my thoughts on a lot of that. It's not as edited as hard as mainstream TV. So if you're not careful on YouTube, you're going to push the envelope a little too hard to try to get a few likes, to try to grow the page. And I have watched that so many times come back to bite people because the day and time that we're in, people get offended. And when they get offended, they go after your job. They don't send you an email. They come after your job. So I've looked at that going, is that risk worth the reward? I don't think so.
All right. Chad in Canada wants to know, does part of you wish that bass would have evolved into something that is equivalent to the BPT, making them have the right path to the future?
I think we all wanted that, to be honest with you. I think we pushed for it the last 5 or 6 years. It was just pretty silenced. And I think a lot of the anglers were stale with it. We wanted that new growth. We wanted some type of style of fishing, something to make us different. And I think guys noticed that we were shrinking. the numbers were shrinking. The only thing that was rising was what we seen on the internet, you know. So I think the guys wanted it. It wasn't time for it to happen. And MLF seemed to be where the sport is going. It's faster, it's quicker, every fish counts. It's in your face, attention span for millennials. It's right up their avenue because something's always happening.
All right, Ricky in South Carolina wants to know, can you elaborate anything on what the fan experience is going to be like at the BPT events?
I'll try to say as much, you know, what I know about it is I'll give the guys at the Bass Pro Tour tournament, they didn't want to leave the fan out. So we're going to have a fan experience. So after you weigh in, or after we load the boats up, we're going to go to an area in that town designated. They're going to have tents up. They're going to have activation there. They could have sponsor exhibits up. The anglers will actually, the original view of this was to anglers to drive through. You get 2 minutes on stage. The stage is now my boat. My boat and truck will pull in. I'll stand in my boat, be interviewed for 2 minutes about my day on the water. It'll be live coverage on the internet, and then I can go out and meet the fans. So I think what people originally thought and saying, well, y'all not going to have any way to interact with the fans, when I seen this concept of how they're going to do it, we're going to have more time with the fans. Because I'm not trying to rush up to the scale with fish. I'm not worried about one dying in the bag. I'm not waiting in line to get a bag. My day is over, completely over, and I've got the next day off. So for me to be in a hurry, that kind of takes that out of the equation. I think the fan experience, that's what I know of it, and I think it's going to be pretty awesome.
All right, good stuff there. All right, our good friend Dave in South Carolina wants to know, what was it like having to sit on the bank while his AOY destiny was in the hands of Greg Hackney?
It was the longest day of my life. If there's anybody out there you don't want to be controlling your destiny for an AOY and what he catches, it's Greg Hackney's probably one of those guys. And that time in life, the ball bounced in my court. I've had several times in the sport where the ball didn't bounce my way, but that day it kind of bounced my way.
All right, Dennis in Illinois wants to know, do you think Bass will give the MLF guys fair coverage during the Classic?
I tell you, that Cat Newton said, coming at you. Well, I don't know. I hope so. I hope so, you know. I hope so. If they don't, hey, I understand it. I get it. I get it. You know, I've given them 21 years of my life, and I still give them respect, and I still say they're one of the greatest organizations out there. They do a lot. So I hope that they see the anglers the same way.
All right, Brandon in Maryland wants to know, how are your knees?
Hey, you know, Brandon, them old knees, they ache and they pop and they creak, you know, and I got a good doctor. His name's Dr. Jaffe, and he keeps them shot up with they call it chicken cone juice. It comes from the rooster's comb. They grind it up into some type of synthetic lubricant. They shoot it. But honestly, from what I've been through with them, man, they're pretty good. I use my hunting season. People say, man, you hunt a lot. I do, but I train a lot. I walk a lot in hunting. I don't just ride the cart everywhere. I'll walk extra, just to kind of keep them knees where they need to be and strengthen them. So I'm not 100%, but I'm 95%.
All right. Anything? I need a break here.
All right. I want to talk about Florida because obviously the BPT kicks off in Florida here. And one of the things that I thought was interesting was you are not known as a Bobby Lane, a Chris Lane, a Randall Tharp, one of those guys, because they catch their ass in Florida. There's the only way to say that. But, dude, do you know how many professional tournaments you have fished in the state of Florida?
I think you're going to scare me here because I thought at one time, Matt, I may have to move down there and draw Social Security to get a check because I know them first 6-8 years in Florida was rough on me.
34 between FLW and Bass.
Oh.
34. Now, this is the other thing I found interesting because you can look at your statistics starting out on FLW, and I'll say you had 103rd, 133rd, a 16th, 131st, a 72nd, and 126th. And then in your first 13 with Bass, you had 6 finishes below 60th. But here's the bright side, Gerald. In your last 15 BASS events that are in Florida, you only have 3 finishes below 60th. Your win with Bass was in Florida, too. And overall, you have 16 top 40 finishes in Florida. So what is the secret? It obviously looks like, based on your stats, there was like a 2-year period where you went I got it. This is how you survive Florida. And that's something that a lot of guys screw their seasons up at the start with a couple horrible finishes. And you seem to have figured out how to avoid that and finish 15th to 40th every time you go now.
One of the things I struggled with, Matt, at early age when I went down there, it was usually the first tournament of the year, you know. So you're all jacked up, you're giddy. You get out there, man, the adrenaline's pumping, it's a new season, and I just found myself just fishing too fast, man, just flying around the lake, just fishing and fishing and fishing, just going. And then after a while, I thought, man, you know, if you'll just slow down, don't worry about it being the first tournament, don't worry about the anxiety of what you got to get on the board, just go fish and fish slow. I learned to pick that, you know, like a trick worm up and just go to pitching and do things that I normally wouldn't do. And I learned that the slower I move around, the better I am down there. Then I learned to fish a little bit more offshore. I spend most of my practice the last 6 to 8 times or 10 years I go down there, and I'll do the same thing. It's no secret when I go down for the MLF event. I'll spend both of my days of practice fishing to win offshore. I will never fish the bank unless I get in a bind in a tournament. Then I'll go in there and try to get a check, and that seems to have worked out for me. It seems like if you don't do enough homework offshore in Florida, now if it's a bedding tournament, it's a whole different deal. But you better spend some time offshore looking for the mother lode and looking for those couple of key bites, because it didn't take me long to realize it don't matter how many pound-and-a-halfers you catch. If you don't catch a 6 or 7 pounder, those are irrelevant. So I reversed my strategy, and I started fishing for the big ones more than I did the little ones. You know, and then if I ever caught the big one and I got in a bind, I could say, man, run up here on the bank, take a little lipless crankbait or something and catch 5. Well, you get a check. But before, I would just go down there, I don't know, man, just running the bank. Now, like, I'll never put a skinny dipper or horny toad or any of that stuff. It just doesn't even go in my boat unless it's just dire emergency.
Well, is it in your boat now? Because now it's reversed. Now those pound-and-a-halfers mean something. Now you got to completely unwind all these things.
Jesse Wiggins was like, man, you know, when we go down there now, it's going to be different, man. It's going to be all them pound-and-a-halfers. I said, Jesse, when's the last time you went to Toho and caught 50? He said, well, I ain't there caught 50, and every time I've been down there all combined, and I won one. I said, right. I said, don't get excited. When you go down there, you catch 1 or 2 big ones a day, you will make the cut. He said, you think? I said, I guarantee. Man, to go down there and catch fish all day, catch him a couple of 5-pounders, he'll be fine. I said, that's one of them particular lakes. I don't think, especially with the weather, you see it kind of dropping down and getting cold, I don't think you're going to be piled in numbers. Not like you're going to see at Smith Lake where you can see a guy catch 100 in a day. Toho's never been that way. A great day on Toho is catching 10 or 15 fish, but 12 of them may weigh 1 pound apiece. But you go out and catch 2 6s, you'll be just fine.
How well does the MLF format fit your game, Gerald?
Honestly, Jeffrey's the first year I fished a man. The first 2 I fished, they just packed sand in my rear end. I did not do good in a man. I ran around. I got to listen to Score Tracker update, and I panicked, and I was like, man, this guy's doing this guy's doing that. I need to run over here and do this. And it was just a crap show. The last couple I fished, I actually ended up winning one and finished second in one. I kind of figured out what I was doing wrong and learned to stay in my, as the commercial says, just stay in your lane, bro. Stay in your lane. Don't worry about what Bobby Lane's doing. Don't worry about if somebody gets off to the first, jumps out front. You fish your game just like you would in the Elite Series or any other tournament. The only difference is I know the score, okay? I just had to be content with that and say, hey, you may not be leading it right now. You may be in last place. But do what you do. Slow down, catch a few fish, get on the board. I think, and of course, outside of that, I just let Leanne, she runs around the house right now going, Score Tracker update, just scaring the crap out of me. I was brushing my teeth. She runs in there behind me, Score Tracker update. I'm like, good God, shut up. She said, I want you to get used of the interruption. That's the thing I struggle with the most. It wasn't actually what they were saying on the Score Tracker. When I fish, I don't normally talk a lot. Believe it or not, I don't hardly say nothing. So to have that constant interference in my thought process, I struggled with. I'm used to being quiet, just easing down the bank, and it's constantly going Score Tracker update, and I just want to say, for the love of God, man, shut up. I don't care what the score is. I'm just tired of hearing it.
He did tell me that in the one-on-one.
Yeah.
In the one-on-one verse, I was like, oh, God, Strader caught another one. I got to tell him. And I mean, you could feel the tension.
I don't like it. I'm like, I don't like knowing the score. I like just fishing, and I've had to work on that. I really had to get in a thought process saying, you know what, don't panic. And I think that's the guys who've never fished that style format, that's something they got to get used to. is, man, when that score tracker update starts going off, it's hard not to go to tying on 42 plugs and winging out in the middle and burning gas. And that ain't the way you catch up. I mean, I learned a valuable lesson. I was down almost 20 pounds on one of those and came back and finished second on a shaking head. You sometimes fishing faster don't catch them any faster.
All right, Lane in New Jersey wants to know, will MLF eventually, maybe for some events, put in a 10 or a 15 fish limit? Would you like to see that? No, I don't think so, and I don't want to see it, you know. And we've had this discussion about that, and some guys say, well, man, maybe we should go to like a 3-pound limit, you know. It's got to be 3 pounds to weigh it. And what makes the show compelling, man, is nobody's out of it, and every fish counts. I mean, I guarantee you, if Matt was at my house right now and we went down to Duncan Bridge and dunked the boat in the water and took off fishing, we're going to say $1 for the first fish, $1 for the most fish. We're not weighing them, guys. We're just catching them. Yeah. And I think that's human nature. Man, when you get to the gas station, I don't drive up and holler at the dude that's got his boat over and go, hey, man, what's your best 5 weigh today? No. I've never done that, but I always have. You know? And he goes, yeah, I caught about 30. And I'm like, that's pretty good. You know, I think that's the cool thing about this is that one fish it means something to that angler and it motivates him. So I don't ever want to see him change the format. It's been super, super successful. All right, Jake in Ohio wants to know, do you not have the option to tell the guy, hey, I don't want to hear an update? I tried, Jake. They don't like to hear that. I even wear my earbuds, and they didn't want to hear that neither. You don't have the option. They're told that he's going to tell you the update whether you like it or not. Wow. All right. Number of people, including Matt in North Carolina, wants to know, what are your sponsor lineups, and do you have any changes for this year? We don't really have a lot of changes coming out. You know, I still kept everything pretty much like it was last year. We're still in negotiations with Mountain Dew, trying to see if we can keep that deal going. Do what, huh? There's been a change in the sunglass. I mean, everything's not finalized yet, but I'm teaming up with Costa. You know, I was with Oakley for years and then Torch, and I'm made my decision that Costa's where I want to be till I retire. So that's one of the biggest changes I have right now for me is just the Costa eyewear. All right. Back to the instant feedback. Several people want to know, what are your thoughts about the upcoming one-on-one live versus Jordan Lee in March? I don't know, man. If it went anything like that little live tournament me and him and my nephew had up there in New York, it ought to be good, because there's still people hitting me up on instant message wanting me to complete that tournament, that Facebook live tournament. It should be good. The fishing should be good. I think you guys, I think it went well last time, did not? With Wesley, yeah. Except my ass whooping, but it went well. I mean, sometimes you just got to own it. I mean, Alabama didn't have nothing for Clemson, and that day I didn't have nothing for Wesley. You know, I think the deal between Joe and I should be a good shootout. It'll be fun. I don't know if y'all going to keep us in a smaller area or shortening off the lake. But I'm kind of looking forward to it. I'm going to try to do better this time. Matthew? I just have one more question. Okay. I mean, it's kind of a personal question for me, yes, but I just wanted to see. So and be honest with me here. You remember back in the Chesapeake in 2015, the WEC Mutt? Yes. That little crankbait that you threw. Well, I got my hands on one, but I flipped it and I sold it for $60. Did I do the right thing, or should I held on to that? Man, that's the tough one, man. I don't know. I don't think I would have sold it, dude. To where you live, around Grand, I think you could have won $60 on that thing back several times over. I mean, it's and you know, they're not going to be anymore. So I don't know. Maybe you had a bad color and you wanted to flip it. I don't know. It was a shad color, kind of a pearlescent side with a black back. It was a good color. You didn't like it? No, I did. I just needed the money. So, okay, here's my personal question to Matt and the Jeffrey. See, I get to interview Matt for a minute because, see, I follow Matt on Snapchat and Instagram, and I kind of been watching him. Him and this girl's been getting serious. Like, right? Oh, like, yeah. Real serious. Yeah. When's the wedding, bro? When's the wedding? We talked about it. There is no wedding planned. She barrel races. I bass fish. Way too expensive. You can do a lot of tournaments and a lot of barrel races instead of a wedding. The courthouse has them every day, man. So the second part to my question is... You just skated right by that. So the second part to my question is, I might have an opportunity to purchase that mutt back
but for $80 because the person I sold it to is a capitalist.
Oh.
Would you go ahead and pull the trigger on that?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, I would. And let me tell you why. Because I think if you fish it 2 years and don't lose it, you can probably flip it for 150.
Here's the deal. I sold it before I ever made a cast with it because I knew if I fished it, I would never sell it.
Huh.
So I figured if I don't know what it is, if I don't throw it, that I can't miss it. But then I've immediately regretted it for the past 4 months. But I know where it is. I potentially might be able to get it back. Okay, you helped me with my personal dilemma, Gerald.
Hey, my nephew, I told him one time to go by my house and get some crankbaits, and he was like 17 years old, and he went by there and got 2 of those baits that I had sitting out that I didn't know he was going to get. And like for 3 months, he was just wrecking them at Smith and everywhere. And I was like, dude, you've been crushing them. He goes, man, that's one of these little baits I got from you. He said, I've already lost one, but I got one left. He sent me a picture of it, and it was the juice. And I'm like, you do what? He said, I got them off your tackle shelf. I'm like, do not throw it again. Do not throw it again. And he said, I said, dude, I don't even throw that unless it's in the tournament, 4th and 15. You know, I said, it's just that good a bait that I know it's going to work. Maybe it's just a small profile, but man, now that Ed's gone and nobody's, I don't know if anybody will be able to duplicate that, so the value's only going to go up.
So more than that's like the OG wart up in the Ozarks. Like you don't throw the Ghost Brown or the Phantom Green until it's like final day, and you're like, okay, now it's time to catch it.
It's the final day at noon, and you've only got 3, and then you go, hey man, it's time. Pull in the ace, pull in the closer, and you got, okay, take him out of the box, and you tie him on.
So you get it hung in March, and you're like, the water temp's 58. That's not that cold. I can dive down there and get it.
Guy who's throwing it stands on the inside of the boat, so it's the shallowest cast, so you can swim down to it. You're like, yeah, you stand on the inside.
Wow. All right, a couple of questions from the instant feedback, and then I have one other topic that we want to get to, and we'll let you go. A couple of rules questions. Courtney in Louisiana wants to know, is it still going to be 1 pound minimum for all fish?
Yes.
No length limit? It's 1 pound, right?
1 pound.
All right. And then Dennis in Illinois wants to know, are you going to be allowed to catch the same fish if it's a better?
No, sir. No, sir. You can only visually catch a sight fish 1 time a day. Now, the key to that, you can only visually, if you're visually fishing for a sight bass, you can only weigh him 1 time a day.
Oh, no. Oh, no. I'm sorry. This is unrelated. This is a text from the guy who's got it. Quote, no way in hell are you getting that mutt back. I'll show you. It's right here on my phone, right here. Oh, man.
That's pretty funny. All right. What I want to wrap up with is you're doing something really cool with your nephew, Trey, this year. You're actually going to fish the Opens. And why don't you tell the fans, the listeners, a little bit about how that whole situation is going to work, G?
Well, my nephew Trey's 18. He's a good little stick. He's the son of my brother who passed away from pancreatic cancer, and Trey was young then, and I kind of made a promise to my brother. Was riding down the road going hunting, and he was during his chemo treatment. He asked me, he said, you take care of him? I said, I'll take care of him. He said, like, fishing, you going to make sure if that's what he wants to do, he's got a chance. I said, I'll do it, man. And honestly, I don't just give him a bunch of stuff. I've even had people say negative things to me, like, I can't believe your Uncle G just don't give you a brand new Triton. I can't believe your Uncle G just don't go find you all these fish. And, that's not going to help him. I want him to go fish by himself. I want him to struggle. I want him to fish out of that 18-foot Stratus with a 150 motor that hardly cranks about half the time and his batteries go dead. I want that experience for him so he understands when he does get something, when you put him in a new Triton or something, or he gets his first deal, what it means to him. So it's been a training kind of course up to now. He went on the road with me last year to New York for the first time, did a 2-week trip with Leanne and I, took him out on the Great Lakes, and he just never quit smiling. He's a great kid, and I told him, I said, is Miles still got a love for bass? I said, I'll fish the Opens, man. And I said, this is your year. He said, you going to take me as a co-angler? I said, no, you're going as a boater, and you're going to take my Triton boat, my aluminum boat, and you're going to use it, and we're going to go fishing. And he said, you think I'm ready? And I'm like, nope, I don't think you're ready, son, but I'm putting you in. he's held his own in a lot of tournaments, and you know, the only way I can get him out there, and you know, I feel like what I could pass on my knowledge, the road trips, what it's like, how, you know, traveling, being out there. I can help him at times if I have to, but you know, it's going to be a good year. And I really didn't have the 4 weeks, guys. You know how that is. That's the extra 4 weeks that I just normally didn't have, but it's going to be a great experience. And Leanne we were talking the other day. She said, wouldn't it be exciting if he steps out on one of the first couple of tournaments and catches them real good? I said, it will be, because you're kind of watching it come along. You're watching it progress. And, you know, I think he can be, you know, I think he's got the talent to be a full-time professional fisherman. He's got a long way to go, but he can catch them. Very cool. Centrals, right? Centrals. We're going to do Toledo Bend first, and then we got Smith Lake. They got Mississippi River and Grand. Back to where that mud is in September. I'll be wanting that mud from you right there. Hey, wow. He'll still have that one mutt he's got. You watch. He'll be throwing it against me in September at Grand going, gee, I got this one little bait, man. I've been catching them on. I'm like, yep, that's it. Wow. Gerald, man, as always, just a treat to have you on the show, and wish you nothing but the best this year in 2019. Next week, you're making history, man. I hope so, guys. I look forward to seeing y'all down there covering the events. And Matt, I'm still waiting on my wedding invitation. I mean, I can make it down to the courthouse. If you'll set it up around September when I get out there for that open, me and Trey will come down there and hang out with you like we're your best men. We'll watch you get married. And we'll hit the button, Mark. Hit the Ed button right now. Wow. I mean, hell, I'll throw in $30 or $40 for the honeymoon. Wow. All right, good stuff. Gerald, man, take care. We will talk to you soon, man. Good stuff. All right, take care. Wow, there you have it, Gerald Swindle. Man, he was up on that pretty good there, Matthew. Yeah. All right, some interesting comments. Man, it's here. Next week, gonna happen. And I showed you this before the show. I don't know if people can see that, but do you think they have a lot of those? Wait, let me explain it for the iTunes listeners. This is an unopened piece of mail to Mark Jeffries. It says, free gift inside, Kevin Van Dam's winning guide to crankbait. That doesn't even make sense. Winning guide to crankbait? I don't know. And it is... it's from BASS. Yeah. So. I'm sure they have a few of those envelopes that remain, so I found that quite entertaining. I thought my membership was good. I thought I did a 10-year deal. I've been a life member since I was 12 years old. Mark. Yeah, didn't your family buy that for you as a gift? The very first year that I did the Casting Kids event, they got it for me. I think it was $300. That does not keep Bass from continuing to try to get me to renew my life membership, though. Yeah. But I think that was probably one of the best gifts they could have ever given me. I got the ring. I have the certificate. I have a patch. That's cool. I have a life member patch. I have the gold bass ring. No, that's very cool. All right, man. We are kicking off a record week for us. One show down. Tomorrow we've got Steve Kennedy, and gonna be cool to talk to him. I would throw down some money right now that it will be an extended show. Steve will have some great stories. And by the way, I reposted the 20 feet deep that you filmed with Steve that we did, what was it, 3 years ago? 4 years ago? Yeah, 3 years ago now. Yeah. It was the first 20 foot deep that I ever filmed. Went down and spent 2.5 days with Steve. I had to put a microphone on him at like 8 a.m. the second morning, because the first day I'd mic him up and we'd shoot, and all he would say is how he hates microphones and hates being on camera. So I was sitting there, I was going, this is not going well. I'm spending this time with him. So I found out, those battery packs last like 9 hours. Hell, if you just mic him up in the morning and then just don't even tell him that you're filming, he like starts talking and it starts turning into good stuff. And 2-3 hours in, he was all about it, and it was fascinating stuff. All right, so that's what we have coming up tomorrow. And then Wednesday, Brandon Polinick, he's actually going to be on the road. And we're going to catch him kind of like what we did with Carl. And then Thursday, Bernie Schultz. So a jam-packed week.
You know, they could have had the tournament yesterday that you were supposed to fish.
Oh, yeah. You've been very let down on your Armageddon snowstorm, ice storms this year.
That's what they do, man.
They've been over. They've been over, Mark.
It's pretty frustrating.
I thought of you when it was beautiful and sunny. A little cold and windy, but no ice, no snow, no power lines, no trees down, no 80-car collisions.
None of that. None of that.
I could just see you walk it out and just be like, Carolyn, I found some ice.
Oh, the dusting that they said? Yeah. I went out and I saw like 2 little snowflakes on the side of my car, and that was it.
It was not impressive.
All right, we'll see how the cold front affects the fishing this week down in Florida. So all kinds of stuff getting ready to happen, folks. I want to thank everybody. Don't forget, if you're listening to us on iTunes, make sure you leave a review. And we will have some cool stuff coming down next week to give away. So looking forward to that. Everybody be safe, stay warm, and we will talk to you tomorrow. Steve Kennedy, everybody, stay tuned.